Coach June and my fellow classmates. Today we will discuss about the learning principles studied by different psychologists and their theory that includes first the psychoanalytic and psychosexual theory of Sigmund Freud, number 2 cognitive theory by John Piaget, number 3 psychosocial theory of development by Erik Erikson, number 4 socio-cultural theory by Lev Vygotsky, number 5 ecological theory by Ben Frenner, number 6 classical conditioning by Ivan Pavlov, number 7 operant conditioning by B.F. Skinner, number 8 multiple intelligences theory by Howard Gardner, number 9 metacognitive by John Flavel, and lastly number 10 laws of learning by Edward Thorndike. Each of the group will give an introduction based on their assigned topics. Let's get started.
Good evening, Coach, and good evening to my fellow classmates. I am Alex Reyusner from Itiled ICT 1D, and I will be discussing the two theories, which is the psychoanalysis and the psychosexual theory. So I will be discussing these two I will begin with giving some facts with these two theories. So I will give the first theory, which is the psychoanalysis. So the psychoanalysis focus on the development of the personality of a person, and it also guide in a clinical method and help treating the psychopathology. And that's the first fact and the first theory that I will discussing today. The next theory I will give the fact, which is the psychosexual theory. So the psychosexual theory is a sexual growth of the personality from birth to adult life. So this theory has a 5 stages, which is the oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital. So that's the fact of this theory. I will discussing now the one of the theories of Sigmund Freud, which is the psychoanalytical theory. So the psychoanalytical theory is the theory of Sigmund Freud, which is Sigmund Freud believes that our current experience in our life stages is affected by the current attitude of us. So Sigmund Freud said that our personality has divided by 3, which is the ego and superego. So I will explain these 3 to you right now. I will discussing is the id. So the id is a bad side of our personality, and this personality has focus on the pleasure of our needs or the needs of id, and id has no conscious of what's happening on the real world or what is the consequence if he needs something he wants. So just like, for example, id wants to eat some candy, so id doesn't care what's the consequence of the eating that candy. So the consequence of that candy has a possible that the candy is not for him, or the candy is owned by the other. So id wants that candy without knowing the consequence. So he want the candy straight to it, and he want it. So he doesn't care what is the consequence of it. So that is the personality that it has, which is the bad side. And we're moving on to the next. And the next I will discuss which is the superego. So the superego is the opposite side of the id, which is good side. So superego has a lot of conscious and more sensitive when it comes to doing something. So superego is just like an angel for the vote of personality. Just like for example, if you are if you are doing some bad things, just like for example smoking. So super ego tells that more 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 possibility that will bad happen to you if you try to smoke. So super ego tells all the consequence that it might happen if you try to smoke. So that is the purpose of the super ego, which is giving you the side effects of what you are doing, and it's the opposite side of the id. And now we're moving on to the next discuss, which is the ego. So the ego, the purpose of the ego is to balance these two personalities of us, which is the id and the super ego. So he serves as the boss or boss of these two, and make the right decision and make them balance in order to make a right decision. Just like for example, if you are playing games, so super ego tells to the ego that if he keep playing games and he did not make his requirements, he affect his grade. So and id tells to ego that if he made the assignment, he will suffer. So the ego must balance these two and make the right decision to balance these two. So that is the purpose of the ego. So we discuss from now is the psychosexual theory, which is the theory of Sigmund Freud. And this theory focus on the development of the person from birth to adult. And Sigmund Freud believes that human are encountered 5 stages of life before getting adult, which is the oral stage, anal stage, and phallic stage, latency stage, and the genital stage. And I will discuss it 5 now. So the first stage I will discuss, which is the oral stage. So the oral stage is between birth to 1 years old. So at this stage, we are learning how to eat and swallow. So the libido is focused on the mouth, and it satisfies our libido if there are something putting in our mouth. So that is the oral stage. We are satisfying in putting something in our mouth, which is we're eating and swallowing, and that's when we're moving on to the next. So the next stage I will discuss, which is the anal stage, 1 to 3 years old. So in this stage, the libido are focused on the anus, and the anus and the libido are satisfied when you are pooping and when you are defecating. So in this stage, we are learning how to poop properly and how to poop, where to poop. So that is the satisfaction of the libido in this stage. And moving on to the next stage, I will discuss next, which is the phallic stage. So the phallic stage the libido are focused on the genital parts, which is we are attracted in our opposite sex. Just like for example, a child obsessed with her mother and see his father as his rival, and it's called, if a child obsessed with a mother or a father, it is called the Oedipus complex. It is called. So we are moving on to the next. So next we're discussing, which is the latency stage. So in the latency stage, there is no much focus on the libido in here, because in this stage we are focusing in our career, just like for example playing basketball, playing games, and making friends. So we are focusing here in our career. So there is no such a conflict in this stage, and there is no such a libido focus on this stage. So we are moving on to the next stage. So we are discussing the next topic, which is the genital stage, which is the adult death. So in this stage, it is focused again in the genital area, which is we are attracted with the our opposite sex or opposite gender. So in this stage rather, we are experiencing or we are experimenting the one-on-one relationship, or we are trying to enter the relationship, and it includes the sex intercourse, and that is the main focus on this stage, which is the genital part, or this is the focus of the libido, and that's one topic. So
Good day, Coach Jude Martinez, and to my fellow classmates. My name is Trisha Giselle Felix Lauhari, and I'm going to discuss about Piaget stages of cognitive development. Jean Piaget's theories of cognitive development suggest that intelligence changes as children grow. A child's cognitive development is not just about acquiring knowledge. The child has to develop or construct a mental model of the world. Cognitive development occurs through the interactions of innate capacities and environmental events, and children pass through a series of stages. Piaget's stages are the following: sensory-motor stage, birth to 18 to 24 months, pre-operational stage, 2 to 7 years old, concrete operational stage, 7 to 11 years old, formal operational stage, ages 12 and up. The sequence of the stages is universal across cultures and follow the same invariant or unchanging order. All children go through same stages in the same order, but not all at the same rate. How Piaget developed the theory. Piaget was employed at the Binet Institute in the 1920s, where his job was to develop French version of questions on English intelligence test. He became intrigued with the reasons children gave for the wrong answer to the questions that required logical thinking. These are the stages of cognitive development. The first stage is the sensory-motor stage, ages birth to 2 years. Major characteristic and development changes. During this stage, the infant lives in the present. It does not yet have a mental picture of the world stored in its memory. Therefore, it does not have a sense of object permanence. If it cannot see something, then it does not exist. This is why you can hide a toy from an infant while it watches, but it will not search for the object once it has gone out of sight. The main achievement during this stage is object permanence, knowing that an object still exists even if it is hidden. It requires the ability to form a mental representations of the object. The pre-operational stage, ages 2 to 7 years. By 2 years, children have made some progress towards detaching their thought from physical world, however, have not yet developed logical through characteristics of later stages. Thinking is intuitive, based on subjective judgment about situations, and egocentric, center of the child's own view of the world. The concrete operational stage, ages 7 to 11 years old. This stage is called concrete because children can think logically much more successfully if they can manipulate real materials or picture of them. Piaget considered that concrete stage a major turning point in the child's cognitive development because it marks the beginning of logical or operational thought. This means the child can work things out internally in their head rather than physical try things out in the real world. Children can conserve number age 6, mass age 7, and weight age 9. Conservation is the understanding that something stays the same in quantity even though its appearance changes. But operational thought only effective here if child asked to reason about materials that are physically present. Children at this stage will tend to make mistakes or be overwhelmed when asked to reason about abstract or hypothetical problems. The formal operational stage is ages 12 and over. From about 12 years, children can follow the form of a logical argument without reference to its content. During this time, people develop the ability to think about abstract concepts and logically test hypotheses. This stage sees emergence of scientific thinking, formulating abstract theories and hypotheses when faced with a problem.
Psychosocial Theory of Development by Erik Erikson. Erik Erikson was an ego psychologist who developed one of the most popular and influential theories of development. Erikson maintained that personality develops in a predetermined order through 8 stages of psychosocial development from infancy to adulthood. During each stage, the person experiences a psychosocial crisis which could have a positive or negative outcome for personality development. The stages that make up his theory are as follows. First stage is the trust versus mistrust. Stage 2, autonomy versus shame and doubt. Stage 3, initiative versus guilt. Stage 4, industry versus inferiority. Stage 5, identity versus confusion. Stage 6, intimacy versus isolation. Stage 7, generativity versus stagnation. And Stage 8, integrity versus despair. Erikson's theory suggests that people pass through 8 distinctive developmental stages as they grow and change through life. While many developmental theories tend to focus purely on childhood events, Erikson was one of the few theories to look at development across the entire course of the lifespan. He was also one of the first to view the aging process itself as part of human development. Sociocultural Theory by Lev Vygotsky. Lev Vygotsky was a seminal Russian psychologist who is best known for his sociocultural theory. He believed that social interaction plays a critical role in children's learning. Through such social interactions, children go through a continuous process of learning. Vygotsky noted that culture profoundly influences this process. Imitation, guided learning, and collaborative learning all play a critical part in his theory. Vygotsky believed everything is learned on 2 levels. First, through interaction with others, and then integrated into the individual's mental structure. The trust versus mistrust stage is the first stage of psychologist Erik Erikson's theory of psychosocial development. This stage begins at birth and lasts until your child is around 18 months old. According to Erikson, it is the most important period of your child's life, as it shapes their view of the world as well as their overall personality. Erikson believed that early patterns of trust help children build a strong base of trust that's crucial for their social and emotional development. If a child successfully develops trust, they will feel safe and secure in the world. You're essentially shaping their personality and determining determining how they will view the world. The primary way you can build trust with your baby is to respond when they try to communicate with you. Because babies can't use words to express themselves, they use nonverbal strategies to communicate what they're thinking and feeling at all times. Crying is one of the most common strategies babies use to communicate with their caregivers, and it carries different meanings. Every baby communicates differently. So becoming familiar with your baby's communication style is the key to success at this stage. Noticing and responding to these signals, whether they are cries, body movement, cues, or even words, help them learn to trust you and the world around them. Children raised by consistently unreliable, unpredictable parents who fail to meet these basic needs eventually develop an overall sense of mistrust. Mistrust can cause children to become fearful, confused, and anxious, all of which make it difficult to form healthy relationships. This, in turn, can lead to poor social support, isolation, and loneliness. Autonomy versus shame and doubt is the second stage of Erik Erikson's stages of psychosocial development. This stage occurs between the ages of 8 months to around age 2 or 3 years. According to Erikson, children at this stage are focused on developing a greater sense of self-control. During the previous stage of development, trust versus mistrust, children are almost entirely dependent upon others for their safe and care. It is during this stage that children build the foundations of trust in the world. As they progress into the second stage, however, it is important for young children to begin developing a sense of personal independence and control. As they learn to do things for themselves, they establish a sense of control over themselves as well as some basic confidence in their own abilities. Gaining a sense of personal control over the world is important at this stage of development. Children at this age are becoming increasingly independent and want to gain more control over what they do and how they do it. Kids in this stage of development often feel the need to do things independently, such as picking out what they will wear each day, putting on their own clothes, and deciding what they will eat. While this can often be frustrating for parents and caregivers, it is an important part of developing a sense of self-control and personal autonomy. Children who successfully complete this stage feel secure and confident, while those who do not are left with a sense of inadequacy and self-doubt. This stage also serves as an important building block for future development. Kids who have confidence in their skills are more likely to succeed in subsequent tasks such as mastering social, academic, and other skills. Initiative versus guilt is the third stage of Erik Erikson's theory of psychosocial development. This stage occurs during the preschool years, between the ages of 3 and 5. During the initiative versus guilt stage, children begin to assert their power and control over the world through directing play and other social interaction. If they have successfully completed the earlier two stages, kids now have a sense that the world is trustworthy and they are able to act independently. Now, it is important for kids to learn that they can exert power over themselves and the world. They need to try things on their own and explore their own abilities. By doing this, they can develop ambition and direction. This stage can sometimes be frustrating for parents and caregivers as children begin to exercise more control over the things that impact their lives. Such decisions can range from the friends they play with, the activities they engage in, and the way that they approach different tasks. Parents and other adults might want to guide children towards certain friends, activities, or choices, but children might resist and insist on making their own choices. While this might lead to some conflicts with parental wishes at times, it is important important to give kids a chance to make such choices. However, it is important that parents continue to enforce safe boundaries and encourage children to make good choices through the use of modeling and reinforcement. During this stage, it is important for caregivers to encourage exploration and to help children make appropriate choices. Caregivers who are discouraging or dismissive may cause children to feel ashamed of themselves and to become overly dependent upon the help of others. So what does Erikson mean by guilt? Essentially, kids who fail to develop a sense of initiative at this stage may emerge with a fear of trying new things. When they do direct efforts towards something, they may feel that they are doing something wrong. While mistakes are inevitable in life, kids with initiative will takes happen and they just need to try again. Children who experience guilt will instead interpret mistakes as a sign of personal failure and may be left with a sense that they are bad. Industry versus inferiority is the fourth stage of Erik Erikson theories of psychosocial development, which happens after the third stage of initiative versus guilt. The stage occurs during childhood between the ages of approximately 6 and 11. School and social interaction play an important role during this time of child's life. A child's social world expands considerably as they enter school and gain new friendship with peers. Through social interactions, children begin to develop a sense of pride in their accomplishments and abilities. During the earlier stages, a child's interaction centered primarily on caregivers, family members, and others in their immediate household. As the school years begin, the realm of social influence increases dramatically. Friends and classmates play a role in how children progress through the industry versus inferiority stage. Through proficiency at play and schoolwork, children are able to develop a sense of competence and pride in their abilities. By feeling competent and capable, children are able to also form a strong self-concept. During social interactions with peers, some children may discover that their abilities are better than those of their friends, or that their talents are highly prized by others. This can lead to feelings of confidence. In other cases, kids may discover that they are not quite as capable as other kids, which can result in feelings of inadequacy. During the industry versus inferiority stage, children become capable of performing increasingly complex tasks. As a result, they strive to master new skills. Children who struggle to develop this sense of competence may emerge from this stage with feelings of failure and inferiority. This set the stage for later problems in development. People who don't feel competent in their ability to succeed may be less likely to try new things and more likely to assume that their efforts will not measure up under scrutiny. Identity versus confusion is the fifth stage of ego in psychologist Erik Erikson, the theory of psychosocial development. This stage occurs during adolescence between the ages of approximately 12 and 18. During this stage, adolescents explore their independence and develop a sense of self. As they transition from childhood to adulthood, teens may begin to feel confused or insecure about themselves and how they fit into society. As they seek to establish a sense of self, teens may experiment with different roles, activities, and behaviors. According to Erikson, this is important to the process of forming a strong identity and developing a sense of direction in life. One of the main elements of Erikson's psychosocial stage theory is the development of ego identity. It is the conscious sense of self that we develop through social interaction, which is constantly changing due to new experiences and information we acquire in our daily interactions with others. No matter where you are in your life, there are things you can do to help build a stronger sense of identity. For example, Thinking about what your values are helps solidify your identity. Core values are those things that are really important and meaningful to you and that motivate you and guide your decisions. It's important to spend time alone to get to know yourself better. Those quiet moments can help you focus on your priorities and improve your sense of self. Relatedly, learn to practice self-compassion, which can help you better understand and accept your flaws and limitations. Intimacy versus isolation is the sixth stage of Erik Erikson's theory of psychosocial development, which happens after the fifth stage of identity versus role confusion. This stage takes place during young adulthood between the ages of approximately 19 and 40. The major conflict at this stage of life centers on forming intimate, loving relationships with other people. Success at this stage leads to fulfilling relationships. Struggling at this stage, on the other hand, can result in feelings of loneliness and isolation. Intimacy, according to Erikson, believed that it was vital to develop close, committed relationships with other people. As people enter adulthood, these emotionally intimate relationships play a critical role in a person's emotional well-being. Romantic and sexual relationships can be an important part of this stage of life, but intimacy is more about having close, loving relationships. It includes romantic partners, but it can also encompass close, enduring friendships with people outside of your family. Intimacy requires being able to share parts of yourself with others, as well as the ability to listen to support other people. These relationships are reciprocal. You are sharing parts of yourself and others are sharing with you. When this happens successfully, you gain the support, intimacy, and companionship of another person. But sometimes things don't go on smoothly. You might experience rejection or other responses that cause you withdraw. It might harm your confidence and self-esteem, making you wary of putting yourself out there again in the future. Generativity versus stagnation is the seven stages of Erik Erikson's theory of psychosocial development. This stage takes place during middle adulthood between the ages of approximately 40 and 65. During this time, adults strive to create or nurture things that will outlast them, often by parenting children or contributing to positive changes that benefit other people, contributing to society and doing things to benefit future generations are important needs at the generativity versus stagnation stage of development. Generativity refers to making your mark on the world by caring for others as well as creating and accomplishing things that make the world a better place. Key characteristics of generativity include making commitments to other people, developing relationship with family, mentoring others, and contributing to the next generation. As we might imagine, these sorts of things are frequently realized through having and raising children. Those who are successful during this phase will feel that they are contributing to the world by being active in their home and community. Stagnation refers to the failure to find a way to contribute. These individuals may feel disconnected or uninvolved with their community and with society as a whole. Being self-centered, failing to get involved with others, not taking an interest in productivity, no efforts to improve the self, placing one's concerns over above all else are the characteristic of stagnation. Those who fail to attain this skill will feel unproductive and uninvolved in the world. Integrity versus despair is the eighth and final stage of Erik Erikson's theory of psychosocial development. This stage begins at approximately age 65 and ends at death. Psychologists, counselors, and nurses today use the concepts of Erikson's stages when providing care for aging patients. At the integrity versus despair stage, the key conflict centers on questioning whether or not the individual has led a meaningful, satisfying life. Integrity refers to a person's ability to look back on their life with a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment. A characteristic of integrity includes acceptance, a sense of wholeness, lack of regret, feeling at peace, a sense of success, and feelings of wisdom and acceptance. Despair refers to looking back on life with feelings of regret, shame, or disappointment. Characteristics of despair include bitterness, regret, ruminating over mistakes, feeling that life was wasted, feeling unproductive, depression, and hopeless. During the integrity versus despair stage, people reflect back on the life they have lived and come away with either a sense of fulfillment from a life well lived or a sense of regret and despair over a life misspent. According to Erikson's theory, individuals don't experience integrity or despair all the time. Instead, most healthy individuals experience a balance between each as they begin to make sense of their lives. The psychosocial theory of Erik Erikson states that every individual has surpassed the stage from infancy to adulthood. In my personal experiences, I can relate to each of the stages from 1 to 6 because when I was a child until today, I experienced conflicts between myself and the people surrounding me. There are times like this when I feel isolated because nobody wants to interact with me. They even invite me to attend a large group of people, but I refuse to get on because I have social anxiety, wherein I am not capable of exposing myself to many people. This is my main problem when it comes to socializing with other people. For example, when a group of people passes through me, I don't know what to do. I will just go to another pathway just to avoid them. This happens when I am alone and passing by. But when I am with my friends, I feel more comfortable. However, I am trying to recover myself and know myself better when it comes to this kind of situation. My friends help me engage with a lot of people to interact with them and to make new friends. In classroom setting, teachers who know how to apply psychosocial development in the classroom create a safe environment where each child feels appreciated and comfortable exploring new knowledge and relationships rather than letting fear inhibit learning. These are the process on how we apply psychosocial development in classroom. First, include children in setting classroom rules and discuss what it looks and sounds like when everyone is following those rules. Make a list of classroom duties and let students take charge of these jobs to help the classroom run smoothly. Second, model empathy to teach children to be sensitive to the needs of others. Role-play different situations with children and discuss how they want to be treated when they are in like circumstances. This encourages them to think beyond themselves. Third, demonstrate frequently that learning from mistakes and moving forward is more important than perfection. Teach children that they should never laugh at, ridicule, demean, or ignore someone who is having trouble socially or academically, but rather offer help and encouragement. Fourth, focus on recognizing success. Leave the mistakes of the past in a vat of oblivion and help children build confidence in what they do best. And lastly, provide choices rather than one static assignment, which allow children to express their understanding at the level and in the mode where they can best shine. Art and music, projects, multimedia presentations, written reports, oral reports, etc. Sociocultural theory grew from the work of seminal psychologist Lev Vygotsky, who believed that parents, caregivers, peers, and the culture at large were responsible for developing higher order functions. According to Vygotsky, learning has its basis in interacting with other people. Once this has occurred, the information is then integrated on the individual level. Sociocultural theory focuses not only how adults and peers influence individual learning, but also on how cultural beliefs and attitudes affect how learning takes place. According to Vygotsky, children are born with basic biological constraints on their minds. Each culture, however, provides tools of intellectual adaptation. These tools allow children to use their abilities in a way that is adaptive to the culture in which they live. For example, while one culture might emphasize memory strategies such as note-taking, another might use tools like reminders or note memorization. In classroom settings, teachers may first assess students to determine their current skill level. Educators can then offer instruction that stretches the limits of each child's capabilities. At first, the student may need assistance from an adult or a more knowledgeable peer, but eventually, their zone of proximal development will expand. Teachers can help promote this expansion by planning and organizing their instruction and lessons. For example, the teacher might organize the class into groups where less skilled children are paired with students who have a higher skill level, using hints, prompts, and direct instruction to help kids improve their ability levels. Scaffolding, where the teacher provides specific prompts to move the child progressively forward toward a goal. Types of play that can foster learning include imagery play, role-playing, games, and reenactments of real events. Such activities help promote the growth of abstract thought. In sociocultural theory, I have realized that social interactions with parents, peers, and friends help me a lot to gain new knowledge. Moreover, socializing with others people help me to construct knowledge based on their ideas and thoughts by the process of collaborating. The benefits also of this social interaction with others are important because if we don't have any idea about the concepts or any particular situation, we tend to ask someone or work together to build a new knowledge. Just like me, I usually ask someone to clarify something for me to understand as well as to learn.
Good day to everyone. My name is Nasana Abdurraja. We'll be discussing the ecological theory by Bronfenbrenner. The ecological theory by Yuri Bronfenbrenner. So, he was a Russian-born American developmental psychologist who is known for his ecological system theory of a child development. It offers a framework through which community psychologists examine individuals' relationship. It is also commonly referred to as an ecological system framework. This model, also known as bioecological system, this theory presents child development within the context of relationships that comprise the child environment. So, what are the main points of Bronfenbrenner's theory? So, he believed that a person's development was affected by everything in their surrounding environment. He divided the person environment into 5 different microsystems: the mesosystem, the exosystem, the macrosystem, and the chronosystem. So, the ecological system theory holds that we encounter different environments throughout our lifespan that may influence our behavior in varying degrees. The first level is the microsystem. The microsystem setting is the direct environment we have in our lives. Your family, friends, classmates, teachers, neighbors, and other people who have a direct contact with you are include your microsystem. The microsystem is the setting in which we have direct social interaction with these social others. So, the theory states that we are not more recipients of the experiences we have when socializing with the people in the microsystem environment, but we are contributing to construction of such environment. For the second level, it is the mesosystem. The mesosystem involves the relationship between the microsystem in one's life. This means that your family experience may be related to your school experience. For example, if a child is neglected by his parents, he may have a low chance of developing positive attitude towards his teacher. Also, this child may feel awkward in his presence of peers and may resort to withdrawal from a group of classmates. Level 3, the exosystem. This setting in which here is a link between the context wherein the person does not have any active role and the context wherein is actively participating. Suppose a child is more attached to his father than his mother. The father goes abroad to work for several months or years, so there may be a conflict between the mother and the child's social relationship. Or on the other hand, this event may resort to a tighter bond between the mother and the child while their father are still in abroad. Stage 4, the macro system. The macro system setting is the actual culture of an individual. The cultural context involves the socio-economic status of the person and or his family, his ethnicity or race, and living in a still developing or a third world country. For example, if you're already in a 30 years of age, so this includes that you are a poor family, so it makes you to hard work every day. You need to work harder for your family and for yourself in order to survive in this world. Let's proceed now to the last stage, the chronos system. The chronos system includes the transition and shifts in one's lifespan. This may also involve the socio-historical context that may influence a person. One classic example of this is how diverse. As a major age transition, it may affect not only on the couple relationship but also their children's behavior. According to a majority of research, children are negatively affected on the first years of the divorce, after the divorce. So, the next year after it would reveal that the interaction within the family becomes more stable and agreeable. The classical conditioning by Ivan Pavlov. The classical conditioning is a way of learning where a stimulus that triggers a biological response is paired with a new stimulus that then results in the same reaction. It is a type that had a major influence on the school of thought in psychology known as behaviorism. Behaviorism is a learning theory based on the idea that behavior can control or modify based on the antecedents and consequence of behavioral. Let's now proceed to 4 components of conditioning. Okay, the first one, the unconditioned stimulus, is one that unconditionally or naturally and automatically triggers a response. Number 2, the unconditioned response. It is the unlearned response that occurs naturally in response to the unconditioned stimulus. The third one, the conditioned stimulus, is previously neutral stimulus that, after becoming associated with the unconditioned stimulus, eventually comes to a trigger a conditioned response. Okay, and the last component, the conditioned response, is the learned response to the previously neutral stimulus. Let's discuss more about this classical condition. Okay, the most famous example of classical conditioning was Pavlov's experiments with dogs, who salivated in response to a bell tone. Pavlov showed that when a bell was sounded each time the dog was fed, so the dog learned to associate the sound with the presentation of the food. So it focuses on involuntary, automatic behavior. So Pavlov noticed that a neutral stimulus before a reflex causes an association. He concluded an experiment in which he rang a bell before presenting dogs with food. When dogs see or smell food, they salivate. So no one taught them to do this. So it is an unconditioned response to an unconditioned stimulus. So of course, that is not how dogs would normally respond to seeing or hearing a bell ring. So this is a neutral stimulus. However, Pavlov found that if he always rang a bell before presenting dogs with food, then they eventually began to salivate as soon as they heard the bell. So even when there was no food around, the bell has now become a conditioned stimulus, and the dogs salivate as a conditioned response. So even there is no prepared food in front of them, but if someone ring it, the dog will come and will expecting that the food is ready. Let's recall the classical conditioning again. So it was developed by Russian sociologist Ivan Pavlov. Classical conditioning is a learning process that occurs through associations between an environmental stimulus and a naturally occurring stimulus.
Good day, Coach Jude, and to my fellow classmates. Hi, I'm Kimberly Villacura from Vitaled ICT 1D. Let's tackle about operant conditioning by B.F. Skinner and multiple intelligence theory by Howard Gardner. Operant conditioning describes learning that is controlled and result in shaping behavior through the reinforcement of stimuli-response pattern. The theory of B.F. Skinner is based upon the idea that learning is a function of change in overt behavior. The distinctive characteristic of operant conditioning relate to the previous form of behavior received. Is the organism can emit response instead of only eliciting response due to an external stimulus. As I observed the operant conditioning by B.F. Skinner, this is a method of learning where we can receive a reward and punishment for our behavior. It always reflects on our behavior where the consequences of our response determine the probability of being repeated. It reflects on how the personal experience and how we show our behavior. There is always a consequence. It's either a reward or a punishment. But without trying something, we can't identify what range of learning that we earn. Applying operant conditioning in the classroom setting will be effective because you will identify easily the potential of your students that may lead there to decrease their disruptive behaviors and to learn something that will help them to learn and grow. And now, let's proceed to Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. Proposed that the people are not born with all of the intelligence they will ever have. This theory changed the traditional notion that there is one single type of intelligence, sometimes known as G for general intelligence, that only focuses on cognitive abilities. There are 8 types of intelligences. 1 is logical mathematical intelligence, 2 linguistic intelligence, 3 spatial intelligence, 4 musical intelligence, 5 bodily kinesthetic intelligence, 6 interpersonal intelligence, 7 intrapersonal intelligences, and 8 naturalistic intelligence. 1. Logical mathematical intelligence. Children with this type of intelligence are good at solving mysteries or brain teaser, doing puzzles, logical exercise, counting or doing calculations, and computer problems, and also playing strategy games. Number 2. Linguistic intelligence. Children with this type of intelligence are skilled and have preference for activities such as reading, talking, telling stories and jokes, writing poems, learning the language, and playing word games. 3. Spatial intelligence. This type of intelligence show patterns that prove the kid's capability to think in the three dimension. People who develop spatial intelligence are good at solving spatial problems, such as drawing and painting, reading maps, looking at pictures, solving maze, or playing construction games. Number 4. Musical intelligence. It is a type of children with an innate ability to learn different sounds, which translate into a great ability to sing, listen to music, play instrument, compose song, and enjoy concerts and follow different rhythms. This type of intelligence may notice of keys notes others do not and can easily memorize songs and tunes. Number 5. Bodily kinesthetics intelligence. Children who know kinesthetic intelligence are the good at dancing, acting, imitating gesture or expressions, playing sports, running, moving, and also jumping. Number 6. Intrapersonal intelligences. It distinguishes those who know themselves best. These children like to work independently, set goals and focus on achieving them, understand their feelings, and know their strength and weakness. Number 7. The interpersonal intelligence. As opposed to intrapersonal intelligence, it is a common among kids that are good at talking, working in teams, helping others, mediating conflicts, and meeting new people. And the last, number 8, naturalistic intelligence, related to the attraction towards environmental issues, plants and animals. People with this kind of intelligence enjoy doing activities such as camping, hiking, caring for animals, learning about nature, recycling, and caring for the environment. Gardner was surprised to find that multiple intelligence theory has been used most widely in education contexts. He developed this theory to change academic psychologies and therefore did not present many educational suggestions. For these reasons, teachers and educators will able to take the theory and apply it as they so fit. As it gained popularity in this field, Gardner has maintained that practitioners should determine the theory best used in classroom. He has often declined opportunities to aid the curriculum development that use multiple intelligences theory, opting to only provide feedback at the most. Gardner 2011. The most important educational implication from the theory of multiple intelligence can be summed up through individual and pluralization. Individual possess that because each differs from others another, there is no logical reason to teach and assess students identically. Individual education has typically been received for the wealth and others who could afford high tutors to address individual students' needs. Technology has now made it possible for more to access by a variety of teachings and assessment depending on their needs. Multiple intelligence theory states that everyone has all 8 intelligence at varying degrees of proficiency and individual learning style and unrelated to the areas which they are the most intelligent. For example, some with linguistic intelligence may not necessarily learn best through writing and reading. Classifying students by their learning style or intelligence alone may limit their potential learning.
Good day everyone, I am Marian Andico and I am going to discuss about metacognitive by John Flavel. So this theory was first proposed by John H. Flavel, an American professor and child psychologist in the 1970s. So meta means beyond and cognition means thinking. So metacognitive strategy developed over a series of years. Meta memory in the year of 1971, for Flavel, meta memory was intentional, foresighted, used to accomplish a goal. So in 1976, developing metacognitive skills in childhood, so Flavel identified 3 stages of metacognition in early childhood. So the stage 1 is storage, stage 2 recall, stage 3 systematic strategies. In 1979, Flavel proposed 4 different classes of metacognition. These categories act as a framework for thinking about the theory. So the 4 classes of metacognition are: first, the metacognitive knowledge; second, the metacognitive experiences; third, tasks or goals; and lastly, strategies or activities. So metacognitive knowledge is a person's beliefs about how they can affect their own cognition. A person who believes they have the ability to control their own cognitive processes, and this person is likely more motivated to try to control their thoughts processes than someone who does not believe in their own ability to control their thoughts. It is widely accepted as a useful way of explaining a type of thinking that is considered very advanced. So educators should provide meta-thinking strategies to students to help them study and self-assess. So metacognitive theory is the theory of knowledge that is interested in how humans can actively monitor and regulate their own thought processes. Meta memory in 1971, Flavel proposes the term meta memory to explain thinking about how we store and recall information. This term was later changed to metacognition. For Flavel, meta memory was intentional, foresighted, and used to accomplish a goal. Intentional because thinking about how we think can't be stumbled upon. It needs to be strategic and based on specific techniques such as self-questioning. So in foresighted, we need to plan our thinking before conducting a task but coming up with a plan of attack for our studies. So in use to accomplish a goal, we should be using meta strategies to be better at learning or working. In 1976, metacognitive skill development in childhood, Flavel discusses the importance of regulation of cognition and identifies 3 stages of meta skill development in early childhood. So the 3 stages of metacognition in early childhood are storage, recall, and the systematic strategies. Stage 1 is storage. Young children begin to intentionally and consciously. They use basic strategies such as repetition and focus to ensure information is stored in their minds for future use. Stage 2 is recall. Children learn strategies that help them store information in their working memory to recall it in the near future. They can recall information when they predict it with the useful, such as in a game of memory. Stage 3 is systematic strategies. Children use systematic strategies to recall information even when they did not predict that it would be required. They use active recall strategies such as self-questioning and thinking aloud so that information can be recalled from longer-term memory. 4 classes of metacognition in 1979. Flavel proposes 4 classes or types thinking about thinking in order to explain the theory. So the 4 classes of metacognition are: first, metacognitive knowledge; second, person's beliefs about how they can affect their own cognition. A person who believes they have the ability to control their own cognitive processes, and this person is likely more motivated to try to control their thoughts processes than someone who does not believe in their own ability to control their thoughts. The second is metacognitive experiences. Metacognitive experiences are a person's own in the moment subjective applications of their meta thinking to achieve tasks. Flavel suggested that this is a stream of consciousness process. Examples includes connecting one current event to a past event, providing personal feedback throughout the task to ensure you are using the right thought processes to succeed, measuring progress or likelihood of success at any one time. Metacognitive experiences differs from metacognitive knowledge because your experiences are the ways to apply meta strategies, while knowledge is your awareness of your ability to control your cognition. Third is tasks or goals. Your tasks or your goals are the outcomes you want to achieve when thinking about your own thinking. So example of this is comprehension, memorization, creating something, solving a problem, writing a paragraph, and improving your own knowledge. You use your goals to shape which cognitive strategies you plan to use to achieve success. Lastly, strategies or activities. Metacognitive strategies are all the strategies you can use to achieve your cognitive goals. This can include self-questioning, the ability to ask yourself when going throughout your work to ensure you're doing it to the best of your ability. Flavel said that metacognition is the knowledge you have of your own cognitive processes. So it is your thinking. So it is your ability to control your thinking processes through various strategies such as organizing, monitoring, and adapting. Example of metacognitive that can apply in classroom are recognize that they have troubled in a specific topic, think about the problems they have solved before and the strategies they used, apply these strategies, assessing whether they are working or not, and try a different strategy if the one they are using is not effective, and also reflect on how they performed in this task and use this to inform their future work. So teacher can facilitate metacognition by modeling your own thinking aloud and by creating questions that prompt reflective thinking in students. So now I'm going to discuss about the law of learning by Edward Thorndike. Edward Thorndike propounded the first three basic laws of learning: law of readiness, law of exercise, and law of effect. Besides these three basic laws, Thorndike also referred to 5 subordinate laws which further help to explain the learning process. These are law of multiple response, law of set or attitude, prepotency of elements, law of response by analogy, and law of associative shifting. Edward Thorndike developed the first 3 laws of learning: readiness, exercise, and effect. He said also the law of effect, which means that any behavior that is followed by pleasant consequences is likely to be repeated, and any behavior followed by unpleasant consequences is likely to be avoided. Edward Thorndike propounded the first 3 basic laws of learning: readiness, exercise, and effect. So the law of readiness means that learning takes place when an action tendencies arose. So in law of exercise, it means that drill or practice helps in increasing efficiency and durability of learning. Law of effect means that any behavior behavior that is followed by pleasant consequences is likely to be repeated. Besides these three basic laws, Thorndike also referred to five subordinate laws which further help to explain the learning process. These are law of multiple response means a change or variation in response till an appropriate behavior is arrived. Second is law of set or attitude means learning is affected more in the individual if he is set to learn more or to excel. So third is the prepotency of elements means learner would react selectively to the important or essential in the situation, neglecting the non-essential features, thus leading to analytical and insightful learning. Fourth is the law of response by analogy, means utilizing all the experiences in new situation. And lastly, law of associative shifting, means we may get a response from learner with another situation to which he is sensitive. The teacher can apply it in the classroom situation by introducing the principles of pleasure and pain, reward and punishment. When the student does something wrong and he is punished for it, he will not do the work again because punishment gives